Hi, Y Scholars. Welcome to Study Group Week 18. Today we'll be talking about studying effectively, note-taking part 2, saving you memory. So just to begin for today, our vision and mission, as always, is to elevate people's growth mindsets so they achieve higher ambitions, and our mission is to guide first-gen high school students to the pursuit and obtain of college education. So again, we want to make sure we're here to develop those skills that are going to really contribute to our growth mindset and help us really achieve our ambitions. So not only get to where we want to be, but progress through those goals and achieve success overall. Moving forward, we want a quick refresher of why we choose to come to study group and our purpose for attending. So our study group purposes are to increase our connections with other Y Scholars, to improve your student success skills, and guide you to practice your growth mindset. So these are the three purposes mainly of study group, what we promote and what we hope that we achieve together as a group. So we're going to just dive into some review. Last week, we discussed AVT. So what is AVT? AVT is the acronym for the 3 learning styles that we've been exploring for the past weeks. So AVT stands for auditory, visual, and tactile. So those are the 3 study styles and learning styles that we've been communicating to you and exploring together. So what are some reasons for taking notes on our own without people asking us to, or the fear of tests? So when we take initiative and really work to make those notes for us, that's when it's most beneficial. So when we decide to take notes, it's because we are choosing to be active in our learning. We want to really engage with our academic setting and academic work and really work to really optimize that retainment skill. So again, when we take notes, it's because we are taking initiative over the control we have in our own academic progress. So again, it's better when we're taking it without people asking us or those fear of tests, because then we could really take the time to work and develop our notes and really utilize different techniques to make sure they're most optimal to, again, ensuring that success in the activity, class, or any aspect of our life. So some of the things that we discussed last week's was why should we take notes? So in the long run, we can see now that note taking saves you time. So again, it saves you time in that you have that really practical and physical copy of your understanding. So again, note taking is a reference for you to look at. So it's something you could go back to and not have to really scavenge through your notes or try to really rack your brain to try to see what you remember. So instead, you have that physical copy in front of you that you could pull out and use whenever you please. So that's one way in which it saves you time, as many others. Moving forth, we see that note-taking does in itself take certain time to accomplish. And this is because note-taking is your thinking process. So when you're taking notes, it's you interpreting what you hear, what you witness out in front of you, and really working to grasp your own personalized understanding. So note-taking is a thinking process in that you are showing what you learned and really taking the time to reflect on where you stand with that subject. So again, it's a thinking process and does take some time because it's you that's defining what's most important. So for all of us, it varies on what we see is important or beneficial to our learning. So again, this is one way in that notes are personal because we are defining what we think is most important, whether it's that if we don't write this down, we may forget, or whether it's that it's a topic that we think we could tackle and truly understand and grabs our attention, or maybe it's that we are hinted by teachers that, hey, maybe this will be relevant for future activities. So again, note-taking really identifies the most important info, and then again, it comes to your benefit and that it saves you time because you have what you need to know written down. So besides those like direct or most acknowledged benefits, Note-taking is also a trust building with, again, its own direct and indirect benefits. So note-taking really builds trust with different aspects of your life and people in your life. So one being that note-taking builds a relationship with your teacher. It builds trust. And why is that? It's because you show that you're engaged, that you're willing and active in participating in learning. You show that you care about what is being taught to you, and you are, again, determined to take and make effort to accomplish your work. So with your teachers, this has, again, those direct and indirect benefits. And when you're actively learning in class, again, you're more optimal in succeeding. Your conditions are set to succeed. And those indirect benefits that we may not at first realize are that when you are taking notes and your teacher witnesses this, it's, again, establishing trust in that you were, again, engaged in the material. So if there ever comes a time that maybe you're struggling, that teacher is more than likely to compromise with you, to be flexible and reach an understanding, a compromise, because they see that you are dedicated, and it's not that you're struggling because you're not doing the work, but rather maybe you need better or more time to interpret and really solidify that groundwork. Moving forward, note-taking also builds trust with tutors, and that they trust themselves that they will be able to help you. And why is that? Because your notes, again, show what you interpret, what you understand. So they're a resource for your tutors in that they could really grasp what area and what content they need to revisit with you in order to, again, help you learn and really clear those understandings. And we also see that there's this trust building relationship in the workplace. So later, future in life and your career goes, when you take notes, you, again, are using them to really enhance the quality of your work and your performance at work. So often not, there's a surplus of conditions and rules that we must follow in the workplace. And when you take notes of what you hear from your supervisors, from your boss, again, you have that as a reflection of how you should be performing in the workplace and how to conduct yourself. So again, you become the optimal employee, and that you know what's expected of you. And again, you have that fresh reminder through your notes. Besides that, again, there's indirect benefits to this, in that when you have those notes to your, again, benefit to your reference at a hand's reach, you're working better typically than those who are not as engaged or committed to showing their work ethic. So again, with those notes, though, that may enhance your ability to maybe get a raise or get a promotion. So those are some indirect benefits, again, of how trust is built in the workplace through notes, and how it really works to just enhance different aspects of your life. So as mentioned before, today will be on studying effectively, note-taking part 2, saving you memory. So we continue to reinforce that note-taking saves you time by helping you produce your own interpretation of the knowledge. So it's an action that demonstrates that you care enough about what it is that you're learning and you want to be able to remember it. So today we're just going to go over some tools and methods of note-taking. So we'll be effective and successful today if we learn our top 5 picks for note-taking methods. So the Wise Scholars 5 picks, and we understand how to switch up methods depending on situations instead of just going with one way of taking notes every time. So again, we're learning these different techniques and then learning how to apply them and when to use them, when it's most appropriate and when they're most beneficial. So just to go over our note-taking methods, we are going to go through the YSB's top 5 picks. So one of the 5 methods that we chose to really narrow down for you guys is the outline method. So the outline method is structuring your notes, again, in the form of an outline. So you use bullet points to represent different topics and their subtopics, and you write main topics to the left. And you add related subtopics in the bullet points using indents. So again, this is just outlining where you are able to visually see what is the main topic of a specific area. And that's through kind of the indentation on the paper. So that is the outline method. Moving forth, there's the Cornell method. So this is different in that the page is divided into 3 or 4 sections, starting from one row at the top with the title and date, and one in the bottom, along with 2 columns in the center. So the key difference to this is that there is that summary aspect. So again, you do have those keywords and questions that go on the left side of the page, and the notes and key thoughts, or just that note-taking side that really addresses those questions and keywords, are on the right. But again, what stands out the most from this is that you have the summary at the bottom. So this is kind of a reinforcement of you to revisit your notes. So that summary really insinuates the idea that you have to revisit and read through those notes to really try to wrap up everything, or really try to highlight those main takeaways. So the next method here is the boxes method. So all notes related to each other are grouped together in a box, and a dedicated box is assigned for each section of notes. So this note taking helps to show that you're engaged, because again, it's that different separation, that outline through using geometric shapes. Moving forth, there's the charts method. So the charts method is when you typically have a lot of vocabulary, facts, numbers, and things you need to memorize those figures for. So again, this charting method helps you stay organized. It's the info is mapped out in columns and similar to a table or spreadsheet. So every column representing the category. So when do you think this is most beneficial? Maybe consider using the charts method when it's a class that delivers a lot of information or really depends on that memorization aspect of learning. So this could be like for the bio classes, for the history classes, in that there's a lot of important dates and related topics. But again, it's a lot to remember. So you really want to organize it in a way that's less overwhelming. One of the final methods we'll touch upon today is the MAPS method. So again, here is that sometimes lecture has a lot of info too. So using your mapping method helps you by dividing your notes into branches. So you draw arrows to build connections and establish relationships between the topics. So you start with the main topic on the top of the map and just divide into subtopics on the left as you go down. So again, this works for subjects that again deliver a lot of information or kind of require you to use your creativity to understand when these are most or how each subject is related. So in my opinion, or one method in which you could apply this specific strategy to is using this as kind of a structure for maybe an essay, and that's you are able to divide your paragraphs and just work to revise as you go through that essay flow, that essay procedure, and trying to structure that. So as part of the next activity, you'll be taking a few minutes just to give your own opinions and thoughts. So I will be presenting a couple of slides that give a scenario. So you are going to go ahead and deem what is the most appropriate method you will be using. So for the first situation, in your college class on brain biology, your professor is lecturing on different parts of the brain and their functions. So what note-taking technique will you be using? Which is most appropriate and which is going to provide the most benefits for this scenario? So go ahead and write your responses in your Y Scholars journal. 1 to 2 sentences explaining which technique you're using and why you think it's most appropriate. For the next situation, it is that you're in your history class. Your teacher is talking about the Civil War and all factors leading up to the war. So what note-taking technique are you going to apply in this case? Is it different? Is it, or is it similar to the one previous? So again, go ahead and write another couple of sentences describing the technique you're choosing are designated for this situation and explaining why it's appropriate. The next situation is that you are taking down notes on how to write out your personal statements based on your life events. So really use your creativity for this one. Which do you think is most appropriate? What technique is going to really help you address the situation? Last but not least, go ahead and finish up that wise scholar's reflection by doing another couple sentences on this situation. So your boss at Shoe Palace is teaching you how to close up the store, including counting and documenting cash, locking up, and setting the alarm. What note-taking technique is going to be most beneficial to this scenario? Which will you be applying? So again, make sure you have at least 2 sentences for each situation, describing the technique you choose for that situation and why you think it's most appropriate. So again, really try to be creative with this. How could you implement the different strategies, and how could you really work to expand those techniques that you use on a daily basis? So next we'll be talking about some note-taking tools. So some note-taking tools include visuals. So visuals make your notes, again, more appealing to the eye, more alluring, that you linger to them. So again, it draws your attention. So those visuals help you really kind of reinforce certain main concepts or maybe highlight points of confusion. So again, visuals are good in that they're really there in preference to writing long sentences of information. So it saves you time and you jump to the point with the visual. So it makes sense that since we live in a visual heavy culture, you use those visuals to remind you. Next are symbols and abbreviations. So again, no matter the method you use, there's going to be times where you can't keep up with the pace of what is being presented to you. So again, your wrist will start hurting, you'll start feeling kind of tired or maybe just motivated. So using the symbols and abbreviations are important because they help you deliver kind of a secret code in your notes, and you can write with less effort. So next is underlining, highlighting, and coloring key points. So if we're writing too much, it helps to underline what's most important, to really have those most important ideas again stand out. We want them to be standing out clearly, so you're more likely and inclined to memorize them. Okay, one question I have for you is, which note-taking method will you use? This, however, is the wrong question to ask, because the question should be, what is your best method of taking notes? So again, note-taking is a crucial part of everyday life, every student aspect to life, and the way you could have or ensure that you have the greatest impact on your studies and see the most results is when you try to use every method to your benefit. So your job is to take these methods and tools and keep trying them until you notice which methods work best together and which are to be applied to the situation. So again, it takes that effort out of you to really consider which is most appropriate and which is going to be most beneficial for you to that certain class, activity, or any life aspect that you approach with note-taking. So again, what is your best method of taking notes in this situation? Every experience is situational and demands its own appropriate response or action. So really make sure that you're taking the time to, again, reflect and appropriate the correct method for you. That is all for this week's study group. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.